It feels like only yesterday where people like Maximilian Dude were trying to convince us that Final Fantasy VII Remake is the greatest thing ever. Final Fantasy VII is my favorite RPG of all time because it's the only RPG I've ever played. And this game really means a lot to me. Go out and support this remake. This is the best game of 2020, right? Meanwhile, like actual fans were coming out and saying, "Wait a minute, what about the pacing problems? What about the gameplay changes? What about just the terrible ending? The fact that you don't even leave Midgar, like that was just an insane creative decision from the get-go. Actual fans were complaining about characterization, they were complaining about story elements, they were complaining about there were endless things to complain about when it came to Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? And everybody just kind of brushed them off. Oh, it doesn't matter. This is the greatest game ever, says Angry Joe, like screeches Angry Joe. Like it's like watching a really good Netflix anime. It is phenomenal. They tried to tell us, right? That was their narrative, right? And now with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the sequel to the remake, right? You know, which covers basically like not even the second disc. I think it like goes up until like when Eris dies or whatever. Same thing, okay? Like, oh, look at Tifa's gigantic titties, right? Oh, look at the beach scene. Oh, it's completely uncensored, right? Like, oh, base Square Enix, right? Oh, Square Enix is back. It has a 92 on Metacritic. It has uh, it's doing way better than Final Fantasy 16, right? Final Fantasy 7, the remake trilogy, the remake series is doing way better than the mainline Final Fantasy games. Woo! Right, for like the first like couple of days when this was building up to a launch, we had like a lot of shilling for Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, right? You know, I didn't get a comment on it because like I don't know. I was waiting for the game to come out. Like I wasn't even sure when it was coming out. Like I had the impression it was like a pre-release images, like they were just making some announcements or whatever. I didn't know it was coming out like now. Okay, like I'm not following new releases at all anymore because I don't care. But like, yeah, I the game is apparently out now. I think, I believe, and yeah, the game from what I understand, has not been doing well. Like some Famitsu charts have come out, and the game is trailing well behind other Final Fantasy games. And now we can now see the trend, right? People are beginning to notice that Final Fantasy has been dropping off. It has been a consistent decline since like 10, right? A lot of people are like shilling 8 and 7, but really like the series hasn't been good since 6, right? We're still not seeing people like come to like the actual realization that Sony was like the real problem behind like Squaresoft's decline and why they went bankrupt and had to merge with Square Enix. Like people haven't like put two and two together yet because that would mean like acknowledging that the PS1 was like a complete disaster from the get-go. But like people haven't done that yet, but people are beginning to acknowledge that Final Fantasy, one of the biggest cash cows in the Japanese gaming industry, has fallen off. Right? It does have competitors. It does have like valid competition. Like it's not even a legacy property because like Dragon Quest is accepted to be like the precursor to it. Right? Like Final Fantasy has no audience, and it's entirely because of the actions of the developers. You know, the refusal to give fans what they want, the refusal to develop good, interesting games, the refusal to kind of evolve or like have any real talent on board, like the refusal to have any real variety, and like taking too long to put out games. Like in 2005, like I was thrilled at the thought that like, oh yeah, we're gonna get a Kingdom Hearts 3 and it's gonna be amazing. What happened? you know, like endless spin-off games across like a bazillion different platforms. You all of which like didn't advance the story at all. It just made it all like really, really convoluted. It was just ridiculous, right? Like Kingdom Hearts was a complete disaster. And then when Kingdom Hearts 3 finally came out in like what was it, like 2018, 2019, something like that, right? It finally has Pixar worlds. It finally advanced the storyline. It finally has like all these new mechanics. Like the game, I didn't even finish it, right? Like a game I had spent like a decade looking forward to, I had completely lost all interest in by the time it actually came out, right? Because I completely lost all faith in the brand, right? They didn't do a good job growing and evolving the characters, the formula, the gameplay. Like I'm at the point now where I only really consider the first one to be like a valid entry in the series. Right? You know, I don't even like two that much as an adult. Like the first one is still the best in my mind, right? Like that one still has like the good classic SquareSoft charm. It's like probably it was like one of the last SquareSoft games ever made. I think it was for a long time I thought of it as being the last, but like yeah, Final Fantasy X-2 came out after it. But like yeah, looking at the original Kingdom Hearts, like looking at what it did, not only for like Squaresoft and their brand of RPGs, but for Disney, right? That game made me a big fan of Disney animation for a long time. Like when I look back on those memories on that game, like I come away with this like phenomenal experience. Like when have Square Enix ever done anything like that for me? Like in the modern era, I can say that like Triangle Strategy and Octopath Traveler are like really good like callbacks to classic Final Fantasy, like classic like RPGs. But what exactly? Where's the evolution? Where's like the next gen stuff? Like why exactly are we expected to like? Why exactly are like only the lower budget stuff good, right? Like why exactly is only the Nintendo exclusive stuff good, right? Like why exactly is Square like not capable of making a good Final Fantasy game, a good Secret of Mana game, like new gaming IPs in general, right? Like what exactly are we supposed to do about this, right? To me, I do think that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's reputation, this is essentially what I predicted, right? The remake trilogy is going to get less and less enthusiasm as it goes on because people are going to play the first game, fall off of it, and then not continue with the second, right? This is what I said was going to happen when like the episodic nature of Final Fantasy VII was revealed actually, because this is what happens every single time, right? You cannot make a game like this. You are going to lose interest, you are going to lose fans, and you are going to lose sight and not be able to keep your product consistent, right? That's been an issue with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Actually, is that uh, they adjusted Tifa's costume in like a cutscene in the original game because it contradicts like story elements in Rebirth, right? She has like a scar around the chest area, I think, from where Sephiroth like slashes her, right? In Rebirth, but like in Remake, she was originally wearing like the bikini top, so they had to like do this thing where they kind of covered it up in the remake, in the original remake, right? The original remake, like they had to cover her up more in the first one through a patch, right? Like it wasn't an ideological thing, ideological thing, right? Like the reason they had to do that was because of plot reasons, right? So like to me, I do think people need to really take into account just how badly things are going on at Square Enix right now. Right, not only is Final Fantasy declining, their legendary cash cow, Final Fantasy VII, the only game in the franchise that a lot of normies care about, is also diminishing in relevancy. It's also losing its impact, and I think by the third game, like there's not going to be anywhere else for them to turn. Like I do think Square Enix is in a very, very bad position right now, and only now are people starting to acknowledge it.